Good evening, everyone. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes to let folks come into the meeting. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Just letting folks trickle in, and we're going to get started in just a second here. Right. So it's 6:01 right now, so we're going to get going here. We've got attendees coming into the meeting, so welcome everyone. I'm Joe Volker. I'm a community affairs representative at EBMUD, and we're delighted to be here with you tonight. Before we dive into the details of our Walnut Creek Water Treatment Plant pretreatment project, we want to ensure that this session is both interactive and informative. Please take a moment to familiarize yourself with the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Throughout tonight's presentation, we encourage you to use this function to type in any questions or comments that you may have. Tonight, we've gathered EBMUD's project team to provide an overview of our upcoming Walnut Creek Water Treatment Plant pretreatment project and to hear your feedback on the project. EBMUD recently released our draft environmental impact report for this project on September 29th, 2023. The public review period spans 45 days, which started on September 29th, 2023, and concludes on November 13th, 2023. Your input is a critical aspect of shaping the final environmental impact report. In honor of our 100th anniversary, we're diligently preparing for our next century of service by upgrading the water treatment plants across our system. These improvements are part of a broader strategy at EBMUD, where we're investing in our water systems to prepare for our next 100 years. As part of this strategy, the Walnut Creek Water Treatment Plant pretreatment project plays a vital role. We're replacing aging infrastructure, implementing advanced technology, and adapting to challenges such as climate change and drought. These enhancements are a cornerstone of our commitment to ensure that we continue to provide you with top quality water, just as we've proudly done for the past century. One last thing, this meeting is being recorded, and if you're participating, you're agreeing to being recorded. And without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce you to Chen Wang, the project manager for this endeavor. Chen, we're looking forward to your insights, and please take it away.
Thank you so much, Joe. Good evening. Again, welcome to the community meeting on the Walnut Creek Water Treatment Plant pretreatment project. We'll be discussing the project and the results of the draft environmental impact report analysis, like Joe mentioned. So again, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to receive public comments on the draft EIR and answer any questions you may have. The meeting will be recorded and posted on the project website. So here's my agenda, which includes some background on EBMUD, project details, and the findings of the draft EIR analysis. For the project team, there's myself, Chen Wang, the planning project manager. I took over from Tom Boardman, who retired this past summer. There's also Bill Majori here. He's a senior engineer in the Water Distribution Planning Division, as well as David Renstrom, division manager, and Joe, you've met from Community Affairs. We also have consultants working with us on this draft EIR, Woodard and Curran, specialty SQL consultants, and we have Robin Court here tonight, the consultant project manager. So to start, what is an EIR? It stands for an Environmental Impact Report, and its purpose is to inform the public and other agencies of the environmental consequences of a project. While there are officially 3 volumes to the draft EIR, only the first is the draft EIR itself, and the other 2 are appendices. So at the front of Volume 1, the draft EIR, is the executive summary, which provides a concise summary of the whole document. Chapter 2 is the project description in great detail. And Chapter 3 includes all of the environmental resource areas that were analyzed, and each of those subchapters has 3 main parts: an environmental setting, a discussion of the regulatory framework, and then an analysis of the potential impacts from the project. I encourage those of you seeking more information to download a copy from the project website and review the environmental areas that interest you the most, if you haven't already. This slide shows the EIR process. So we started the planning phase in the fall of 2021 and prepared a notice of preparation in February of 2022, where we gave public notice that EBMUD was preparing an EIR and requested comments on the EIR scope. At the first community meeting In March of 2022, we discussed that scope and received public input. Then, over the next year and a half, we prepared the draft EIR, where we determined potential impacts and how to mitigate those impacts, and released the draft EIR in September of this year. This meeting tonight is being held, again, to discuss the findings of that draft EIR and to receive your input. As Joe mentioned, the 45-day public comment period began on September 29th and ends November 13th. We anticipate publication of the final EIR that addresses public comments next summer and bringing the EIR for East Bay MUD board consideration at a public hearing in June of next year. So now I'll provide a brief background on the East Bay MUD water system. East Bay MUD water starts as snowmelt in the Sierras in the McCulmy watershed near Lodi, California. Water is then stored at the Pardee Reservoir before traveling about 90 miles through the McCulmy aqueducts to the East Bay service area, where it is treated at one of East Bay MUD's water treatment plants, including the Walnut Creek water treatment plant. During droughts, we can also have supplemental water supplies delivered via the Freeport Regional Water Facility near Sacramento. The East Bay MUD service area distribution system, with 167 reservoirs, 136 pumping plants, and 4,200 miles approximately of pipelines, serves over 1.4 million customers and 29 cities over 2 counties. The Walnut Creek water treatment plant was constructed in 1967, and the aerial photo on the left shows the plant at about 1 year old. In the photo, you can see the operations building and the gravity filters in the center, and the original clear well in white on the left, where water was stored before being pumped to customers. Alfred Avenue is on the right, and you can see the beginning stages of Ramsey Circle and Cornwall Court at the top of the photo. The Walnut Creek water treatment plant provides the primary water supply for East Bay MUD's East of Hills service area, shown in blue on the right, including Walnut Creek and Lafayette, and portions of Pleasant Hill, Alamo, Danville, Blackhawk, and San Ramon Valley communities. The Walnut Creek water treatment plant was designed to use its inline gravity filters to treat clear snowmelt water from the McCulmy watershed. However, due to climate change and other factors, the water treatment plant needs to adapt to changing source water quality, such as high rainfall runoff in atmospheric rivers. So you can see in the photos here on the left of Pardee Reservoir, the effects of warm, heavy rains leading to high turbidities or murky water in the reservoir. We see that same turbid water arriving at the water treatment plant filters. Bottom right shows recent wildfires in the McCulmy watershed. The watershed itself is outlined in blue, and recent fires from 2014, 2021, and 2022 are shown in red in the vicinity or even within parts of the watershed. We can now expect almost immediate effects on water quality from wildfires. Also, the Walnut Creek water treatment plant needs to be able to treat and deliver supplemental supplies from the Freeport Regional Water Facility during droughts. So these more frequent high turbidity events reduce the filtration capacity and add taste and odor at the Walnut Creek water treatment plant. So the purpose of the project is to treat a broader range of water quality on a more reliable basis, improve water quality, taste, and odor, and increase the water treatment plant capacity to meet planned future demands. The Walnut Creek water treatment plant is located in Walnut Creek, east of Highway 680 at the end of Larkey Lane, adjacent to the Acalanes Ridge open space. The haul route to and from the water treatment plant for the project will be via San Luis Road, and Larkey Lane from the highway, shown in yellow. Here is a site plan that shows the new project components. The entrance from Larkey Lane is at the bottom right, just for your reference. The project would be constructed in 2 phases because the plant is roughly bifurcated into 2 halves, with phase 1 components shown in purple and phase 2 components shown in blue. The orange highlights the 4 ballasted flocculation basins, which can quickly treat high turbidity water in a very small footprint, where the water portion from these is sent to the existing filters, and the sediment portion at the bottom of the basins will drain to the new solids thickening facilities shown in brown. These are where solids from the basins will be dewatered and compacted before disposal. The pink highlights the new ozone treatment that also addresses taste and odor before and after the ballasted flocculation basins. The building shown in dark green consolidates existing maintenance shops, lockers, and offices that need to be demolished for the project. There will also be a new electrical building, shown here in bright pink, to house a unit substation for the electrical load required to operate the new facilities, including a backup generator for power outages. At the top of this plan, the yellow shows where trees will be planted for screening north of the new gravity thickeners retaining wall that are part of the solids thickening facilities. The proposed buildings were designed so that their architecture would match existing buildings at the water treatment plant, which consist of a mix of concrete and metal structures. The solids thickening building facilities include the 2-story concrete dewatering building and truck loading canopy shown at the top. The middle rendering shows the ozone generation building, and the bottom shows the 2-story consolidated maintenance building. Other smaller structures are similar in design. On this slide of the site plan, you can see an existing social footpath dashed in yellow that passes through and around the water treatment plant site. The social footpath starts north at the top of the slide, at the East Bay Regional Park District, Briones to Mount Diablo Regional Trail, and ends at Larkey Lane at the bottom right. A social footpath is an unofficial, user-created path that forms over time, established by the community through regular use. During construction, the existing social footpaths would be temporarily closed with appropriate signage for the duration of phases 1 and 2 for public safety. After construction, security fencing will be installed around the new facilities, and social footpaths will be redirected around those new facilities and fencing as close to existing paths as possible at the end of phase 1. The constructability analysis identified a need for staging areas in addition to existing spaces throughout the water treatment plant. So staging areas 1, 2, and 3 are new staging areas and will be constructed along the south side of the main access road. Staging area 4 is an existing parking lot near the entrance that will be used for material and equipment storage on the western half and for worker parking on the eastern half. No aggregate material, such as stockpiling soil and gravel or construction trailers, would be allowed at staging area 4. Staging area 4 would also have a one-way access route for ingress and egress. As part of the new pretreatment processes at the Walnut Creek Water Treatment Plant, minor hydraulic modifications are required at the Lafayette Water Treatment Plant to increase the water pressure within the aqueducts serving the project. So the Lafayette Water Treatment Plant is approximately 3.5 miles away from the Walnut Creek Water Treatment Plant, south of Highway 24 and north of the Lafayette Reservoir Recreation Area. The haul route to and from the Lafayette Water Treatment Plant will be via Acalanes Road and Mount Diablo Boulevard, shown in yellow. The modifications at the Lafayette Water Treatment Plant will be completed during phase 1 of the project and include construction of a new Lafayette Weir number 1, increasing the height of the existing Lafayette Weir number 2 by approximately 10 feet, and new pipelines connecting to the weirs. After that, the existing old Lafayette Weir number 1 will be demolished. Public outreach and notification has been ongoing throughout the EIR process. Outreach meetings with staff from the City of Walnut Creek, City of Lafayette, East Bay Regional Park District, and Temple Isaiah were held throughout 2021 and 2022. A community outreach and scoping meeting was held in March, like I mentioned previously, to present the conceptual site and landscape plans and discuss the potential environmental factors to be addressed in the draft EIR and receive community feedback. Postcards about that community meeting were sent to affected residents near the project and posted on Nextdoor and the district's website. A project briefing was provided to the City of Walnut Creek City Council in March of 2023. The 2 closest schools, Buena Vista Elementary and Contra Costa Christian Schools, were also notified of the publication of the draft EIR. So issues and concerns raised by agency staff the Walnut Creek City Council and the community included construction-related traffic, noise, and dust, and potential impacts on trails and open space, as well as aesthetics, all of which are addressed in the draft EIR. So in every project, EBMUD incorporates standard practices and procedures and construction specifications to ensure best management practices for issues such as dust, noise, and traffic are implemented. The next few slides will go over some of these standard practices. For example, dust control requirements include covering haul trucks, watering or covering exposed surfaces on site, and regular street sweeping. For exhaust control, requirements include minimizing diesel engine idling times and using best available control technology for diesel engines. For traffic control, a traffic control plan will be required to manage flaggers and temporary controls as needed, and for developing emergency access plans. Also, noise control measures will include specified construction vehicle work hours consistent with the city ordinance and noise monitoring. For the protection of biological resources, there will be required training on special status species, pre-construction biological surveys, and avoidance measures if any species are encountered. For the protection of cultural and paleontological resources, there will also be resource awareness training and immediate stop work and EBMUD notification if any unexpected encounters occur. For waste disposal, EBMUD has procedures that require sampling and characterizing demolition waste to ensure proper handling and disposal. For stormwater pollution prevention, sediment barriers, drip pans, and dechlorinating drinking water discharges will be required. So EBMUD standard practices also include designating a public affairs liaison to respond to construction-related concerns from the community, and notification in advance of potentially disruptive construction activities such as noise or traffic, including extent and duration of the activity. So this slide shows the 15 different resource areas analyzed in the draft EIR. You can see that 13 resource areas had less than significant impacts. This was due to aspects of the project itself and implementation of district standard practices, including those standard construction specifications that I described earlier. 2 resource areas, noise and transportation, require mitigation to reduce their impacts to less than significant. Also, one specific aspect of noise was determined to be a significant and unavoidable impact. I'll go into detail on that on a later slide. For the noise mitigation measures that are required for the project, these emphasize the need to minimize or eliminate early morning construction noise before 7 a.m. And also it requires the installation of temporary sound barriers for the duration of construction at 4 locations. These include the combined reclaimed metering vault, the gravity thickeners, the hydrogen peroxide station, and at staging area 4 along the eastern side of that staging area. The slide shows some examples of sound barriers. On the left, you can see a fence-mounted sound barrier, and the photo on the right shows a K-rail mounted sound barrier. The significant and unavoidable impact I mentioned earlier applies to early morning hour concrete truck noise that is anticipated during extended large concrete pours. These extended pours require a start time of 6 a.m. to minimize disruptions in the pour that could affect the quality of the concrete work and service life of the new facilities being constructed. The noise is significant and unavoidable for the off-site concrete trucks along the haul route before 7 a.m. We estimate about 40 days of this extended pour work during phase 1 and 15 days during phase 2. There are also 2 traffic mitigation measures. The first mitigation measure will restrict heavy truck traffic to between 9 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. to and from the Walnut Creek water treatment plant. It will also require heavy construction vehicle traffic safety monitoring, including radar feedback speed signs on Larky Lane. It will also require pre- and post-construction video monitoring of the truck haul route pavement conditions. The second traffic mitigation measure provides a traffic control flagger at the intersection of Larky Lane and Alvarado Avenue on workdays during local schools pickup and drop-off times. The contractor will be required to coordinate with Contra Costa Christian Schools and Buena Vista Elementary School schedules. So I've discussed a lot of different work hours with the mitigation measures. So this slide shows a summary of project work hours that were discussed. So no other construction activities were permitted on weekends or during East Bay MUD holidays during any work period, except for emergencies or for critical work with prior notice to and approval by East Bay MUD. So the work hours are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Workers may arrive and depart 30 minutes before or after work hours. The concrete trucks will be allowed for 12-hour durations from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. to accommodate extended concrete pours. However, the soil and demolition off-haul and large equipment delivery trucks will be restricted to 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. So the next steps for the project include the public review period, as mentioned before, 45 days, which ends on November 13th. Final EIR and East Bay MUD board consideration in June of 2024. Design anticipated to be from 2024 to 2027, and construction of phase 1 beginning in 2027, with the construction of phase 2 to be determined. So I invite you to go to our website, which has more information, and it will be updated as the progress continues. There's also there for your downloading. You can download a lot of different items, including the 3 volumes of the draft EIR. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Again, the draft EIR is available at the website, at the Walnut Creek Library on North Broadway, at the Lafayette Library on Mount Diablo Boulevard. And again, draft EIR comments are due November 13th. You can email them to the project website or via snail mail to me at East Bay MUD. You can also send general questions about East Bay MUD to Joseph Volker with this contact information there. So the project is investing in East Bay MUD's infrastructure, serving the East of Hills service area and providing a more reliable water supply for an unknown future. So I think I'll go ahead and let Joe start with the questions and comments.
Thanks, Jen. So we do have 3 comments or questions in our question and answer. So again, if you'd like to submit a comment or a question, go ahead and put it into the question and answer portion of on the bottom of your screen. There's a button there that you can click. The first question is from Norman Matloff, who says, we live on Alfred Avenue, chose to locate in this part of Walnut Creek because of the Sierra water source. Can you assure us that we will continue, that will continue with the Sacramento River only for emergencies?
Yes, the primary water supply for East Bay MUD service area is and will continue to be the McComely watershed. The Freeport Regional Water Facility is used as supplemental water supply if needed only during droughts or planned and unplanned outages for some reason.
And then Norman had another question. The treatment plant is on an earthquake fault. Why not expand the Lafayette plant rather than closing it? So this might be one that we want to take as a comment and for the final environmental impact report.
Yes, we can record that as a comment,
Thank
but we don't have any current active mapped faults across the project site.
And our next comment is from Rourke Healy, who says, please discuss the impact to the Briones to Mount Diablo Trail. Will the project require the full closure of the Briones to Mount Diablo Trail? If so, for how long? Will there be a detour route and signage implemented as part of the mitigation?
I can answer that. If you let me go back to the paths slide, I can answer that better with that graphic.
Yeah.
So here we have a picture of the Walnut, the water treatment plant. So this in blue is the East Bay Regional Park District's Briones to Mount Diablo Regional Trail. So this will not be affected by the project because this trail continues to go here and it will not need to be closed for here along the kind of northwestern border of the water treatment plant. The trail that I discussed being closed would be here, approximately here, for existing social footpath, because it currently goes through areas that will need to go under excavation or construction.
Our next comment comes from an anonymous attendee. After the upgrades are completed, will there be any odors coming from this plant during its normal day-to-day operation?
No, there shouldn't be any odors in the long-term operation of this project after project completion.
And then we've got another comment from Peter Green. Hello, we live on Alfred Avenue. We are concerned about the staging area for both storage, or I'm sorry, staging area for both storage and sound barrier. Is it possible to have these supplies stored on other sites of the treatment plant?
What we're doing with the constructability analysis, it found that we're using all the available space that we have on the water treatment plant. And even with the available space at the plant within the site, we still need to construct those 3 other staging areas, 1, 2, and 3. However, I do want to emphasize that staging area 4, there won't be any construction activities happening there or stockpiling of soil or dirt or rock. Like I mentioned before, the eastern half will be used for worker parking and the western half will be just for equipment storage, not aggregate material storage.
Next question is from Rourke Keeley. The EIR discusses brief closures of the trail during access to the vaults north of the trail. Could you confirm this?
I'm sorry, do you mean, sorry, can you repeat that, Joe?
Yeah, it's the EIR discusses brief closures of the trail during access to the vaults north of the trail. Could you confirm this?
What we plan to do is close these existing social footpaths for the duration of construction during phase 1 and phase 2.
Yeah, Jen, I think towards where number 7 is, there's going to be some potential traffic across that. And my recollection,
oh, I see.
The EIR identified the need. I don't think it's going to be closed. We're just going to have a flagger there to direct any traffic and leave the trail open.
Right. In order to allow construction equipment access to this building 7, facility 7, across the trail, there will be a flagger for safety for crossing, but the trail won't be closed. You can still continue along the Briones to Mount Diablo Regional Trail.
Rourke says thank you. Julia Jackson has her hand up and I will call on you in just a second, Julia. I'm just going to read off what you had said here in the question and answer. Stage area 4 was designated in 2012 as an emergency response parking area. So, and then Julia, I'm going to allow you to talk. And so if you wanted to unmute yourself, you can talk.
It was under my understanding that that particular area was designated as that emergency response parking area in 2012 after a lot of input from the community, the neighbors closest to Alfred Avenue, and that it would only be used for emergency purposes. And there was quite a description about that. Also that it would not disrupt the open character of this particular space. So I was surprised that that would be considered as a staging area. I understand that's a limited amount, but how is that designated changed? Because staging and putting equipment there or materials there is not an emergency. I would assume that there'd be more space available closer to the construction site, which would reduce the amount of traffic in and out of that staging area if the materials or whatever is planned for that was closer to the top of the hill where the construction actually takes place.
Thank you for that comment. So what it is this staging area is designated an emergency parking lot for only during normal operations. So this construction project is not considered a normal operations. It's a project itself. So the EIR analyzes the use of this staging area and requires the space that it has available to us for the project. So that's where I think the difference is here. So under normal operating for the long-term operations after the project is done, it will go back to being an emergency parking lot only, to be only used for that purpose, for trainings and emergency parking. But for this construction project, we do need this area for staging. We are going to be using other available spaces near the construction sites as well as active stockpiling sites. So we are going to be using every bit of space that we have available at the water treatment plant, including for this project, staging area 4.
Norman Matloff says that I was surprised to hear that you are unaware of the earthquake fault. Doesn't that invalidate the EIR? So thank you, Norman, for your comment.
Right. No, of course, you can please, I invite you to take a look at our geology and geological soils, geology and soil sections of the draft EIR. This is discussed in great detail there, analysis of earthquake faults and mapping.
But just to confirm, we are aware of the fault and the fault lines, so it was analyzed in the draft EIR. So we are aware of that.
So if we have further questions, go ahead and type them in the question and answer box there, and clicking the button on the bottom of your screen, or like Julia, you can raise your hand. And I can unmute you if you have a question that you'd like to ask, or submit a comment for the drafted environmental impact report. No. Do we have any further questions from anybody in the audience? Julie, I see your hand going up and down. I'm not sure if you have a question or not. Would you like to ask another question? Okay.
Where in the EIR report would I find any mitigation regarding the wildlife? For example, we track birds in our backyard. We average 56 different species on an annual basis. We have the foxes, we've got the deer, and we've got the other skunks and what have you. So to what consideration has any of this taken place for the disruption of the wildlife?
Right. The answer to the first part, you would find an analysis of all the potential special status species in the biological resources chapter of the draft, a section of the draft EIR.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then we have a new question from Derek Tanning. Will you restrict staging on Larky?
There won't be any planned staging on Larky Lane. Larky Lane ends at the EBMUD parcel. And so our proposed staging areas are throughout the plant site as needed, close to where facilities will be built, and at staging areas 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Do we have any other question? Oh, yeah, Peter, I see your hand is up. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, Peter Green here. I'm at 1015 Alfred. I just, I understand that there's going to be noise abatement for the trucks and, as much as we can with the concrete. But I am a little worried about employees showing up at 6:30 with their vehicles. Is there any mitigation planned on making sure that loud motorcycles, loud trucks, personal vehicles will be mitigated?
Well, the planned parking area for worker vehicles will be in staging area 4, and there is that mitigation measure that requires that sound barrier there. But in general, we would expect the employees to work with discretion with their vehicles and arriving at early morning times. That's the intent of mitigation measure noise 1, to minimize the noise in early morning hours.
Should I ask who I file complaints with?
Peter, was that the end of your question?
I was just wondering who I would contact to file complaints if that was being persistently ignored.
Right.
Yeah, you would
Yes.
contact me.
Yes.
I'm Joe Volker. I'm a community affairs representative. I oversee this project through the community affairs department. So I'll put my contact information in the chat for you, Peter, so that you'll have it on hand, and everybody here will have it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, certainly. Rourke, I see your hand is up, so I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk and ask you to unmute.
Hi all, my name is Roy Keeley. I'm a trail planner with East Bay Regional Parks. I know you received my comments earlier and I appreciate your feedback. I'm just following up on one more minute detail here, and I'm open to any response you give. Basically, East Bay Parks has many trails in the region, and we've had experiences where projects like this come in, machinery cross our trails, especially if they're paved, which this one is at certain portions of that blue line. And we have the experience of subsurface materials being impacted, even though visually they're not impacted, you know, the day of, but then a year down the line, 2 years down the line, they start to degrade at higher, more rapid rates. And so just want to make sure that, or want to ask for a bit more detail on how much that number 7 vault will be accessed north of the trail, and the extent to which East Bay MUD is willing to compensate for impacts to the trail. Thank you.
Rourke, I appreciate your concern with that. I think if you would go ahead, and we'll take that as a formal comment, and we can take a look back and address that in the final EIR. We don't anticipate impacts to the trail as we cross it for building 7. Our aqueducts also lie basically really close to and along parallel with the regional trail. So we would be careful along that whole right-of-way alignment area.
Okay, thank you.
We have Derek in the chat, in the question and answer, saying delivery and subcontractors park or idle in front of my house.
As part of the
I apologize. He had put 3 in there. So he says, I'm the last house on Larkey.
Okay, I think we're good.
And the past worker, and the past workers park in front of my house, restricting safe ingress and egress from my house. Delivery and subcontractors park or idle in front of my house.
Right. I hear your concern. As part of this project and as part of the required traffic control, we are going to be very careful outlining the fact that construction vehicles will not be allowed to park or idle outside of the work parcel. And that will be made clear in the project specifications for the contractors.
Peter Green has a comment in the question and answer. How tall will the sound barriers be, and will they be placed as close to the gravel lot as possible in staging area 4?
Yes, the proposed sound barrier in staging area 4 will be 6 feet high. And what we're going to do is place them along the eastern part of that gravel parking lot as close as we can without disturbing the drip line of the trees that are along that eastern border there.
And then Derek asks, who does he contact if he feels this is getting abused? And so Derek, that would be me, and I'm going to respond to you. I put my contact information in the chat, but I'll send it to you as well in the question and answer right now. You're welcome. And we haven't, so Peter, you have your hand up again, so I'm going to go ahead and ask to unmute.
How long are we planning the sound barriers to be up? For the duration?
For the duration of phase 1 and phase 2 as needed.
Phase 1 and phase 2, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. And then Julia, I see your hand is up, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute.
The sound barriers look pretty industrial. Is there any way that would be and there would be an improved look to that? If that slide was very quick on the screen, perhaps you can put that back up again. And then I want to chime on to Derek. with the idling of the vehicles, understand that that has happened in the past without question. Will there be any vehicles that will be delivering the materials for staging 4 that will be allowed to idle because those diesel engines are atrocious, atrocious for residential neighborhoods?
Right
And
there. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
so the 2 questions, this is a pretty unsightly looking sound barrier. That would be a pretty ugly look for 5 years. Is there any way that can be improved?
I think we can consider your comment for sure. I haven't seen the total variety of sound barriers that exist, so we can definitely examine that issue. They will be placed at the end of the parking lot, so there will be still that green space and trees between your houses and that parking lot. But yes, no, I totally do understand your comment, and we will take a look at that.
And then the second part was on that idling within the staging area. Somehow or other, I guess with diesels, they don't like to turn them off. But we have a history here of listening to diesel engines. So I would be concerned if that would be occurring in staging area 4.
Right. There is a general diesel engine idling limit of 2 minutes in the draft EIR. So that idling time would be limited via the construction specifications. But yes, that would go to the types of work that would be going there. And that's mostly equipment stockpiling, equipment storage, and parking. So the intent is for the diesel engines to be minimized at staging area 4.
Thank you.
So Norman has a question. What are people with allergies to do? You did say something about minimizing dust, but it will be there to some extent.
Yes, what we have in our specs is for the trucks that are hauling soil will be covered, and stockpiles will be covered as well. And there will be other dust controls, including wetting down areas that have been disturbed. We will also be hydroseeding and planting disturbed areas where we can to minimize the large areas of soil, of uncovered soil.
Do we have any other questions from anybody in the audience? Feel free to type your questions in the Q&A section on the bottom or raise your hand like others have. Seeing nothing new coming in. No new hands being raised. Oh, we do have a new question here from Derek. I work in both heavy and light construction for 35 years. Nobody pays attention to the idle limits. Thank you, Derek. And like I said, Derek, in the chat, you do have my contact information. So throughout this project, as it's ongoing, if anything comes up, you can feel free to give me a call. My contact information is there, or send me an email if that's what you prefer. I'll be happy to work with you to find a solution. And that goes for everyone on the call. You have my contact information in the chat. We have a new comment from Marty Belukwa. I apologize for mispronouncing your last name. I just joined and missed the meeting. Can I watch on recording? Yeah, so that's a good segue, Marty. We'll be able to, this recording will be posted on the project webpage that Chen had referred to at the end of the PowerPoint presentation. It'll be up within a week on the project webpage, and everybody will be able to watch this meeting over.
And I do again encourage those looking for more information to go ahead and download volume 1 of the draft EIR. There's a lot of information and detail in there, section by section. And even if you don't read the whole thing, there are tables and figures that are very illustrative of the points we are making in the draft EIR.
Do we have any other questions? Seeing none coming in on the question and answer chat or any hands raised on Zoom. We'd like to thank you for attending tonight's virtual meeting on the draft environmental impact report for the Walnut Creek Water Treatment Plant Pretreatment Project. As Jen has mentioned, all of these documents are online right now, and this recording is going to be posted on the project webpage in the coming days. So please feel free to look out for that. And thank you so much for attending and listening to our presentation.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.